On this Easter Monday, the Catholic Church and faithful Christians all over the world are mourning the death of Pope Francis. He passed away this morning at the age of 88 at his residence in the Vatican's Casa Santa Marta. He dedicated his life to the service of the Lord and the Catholic Church. The Vatican saying he taught us the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage, and universal love. Let's bring in Reverend Robert Schuller. Reverend Schuller, so good to see you. Thank you for joining us on this solemn day. The bishop had health battles recently. He was hospitalized for weeks due to pneumonia. He met with Vice President J.D. Vance yesterday on Easter Sunday, his last public appearance. So to me, it was a surprise this morning to wake up and learn of his passing. What are your thoughts?
My thought is it's a life well lived. That's what I want to do. I want to live I want my last day to be, well, he saw this guy and this guy, he was doing this and doing that, and the next day he died. That's the way I want to go myself. I don't want to just whimper out. I want to go out with a bang.
Absolutely. And you know, Pope Francis, we're going to go over some of his video later in the show, some of his last public appearances, some of his mottos that will stick with us for a long time to come. But, you know, we have to mention that Pope Francis was controversial in a sense to where, you know, maybe he had some different stances when it came to the LGBTQ community, globalism, immigration. What are your thoughts to the people today who said maybe Pope Francis wasn't, you know, the best pope we've seen in quite some time? What is your advice for those people who may be seeing some differences with the Pope?
My belief is that he was stuck in a certain culture, and he didn't understand what Donald Trump understands as far as the capture. In my book, God Always Wins, I talk about how scientism has really taken over the world, and scientism is believing in a false science. So, for instance, Pope Francis was very interested in carbon. And he thought he was led to believe that carbon was going to ruin the world, and it has caused the current environmental disasters that plague the world today. I think there's a lot of bad science, and that we need to free our scientists to be able to give us the proper information so we can make good decisions, because many people are susceptible to this bad science. That's why I've been really a Maha kind of person. I got into the whole new political venue through health and wellness, which I started and had an awareness of in the 80s. And so when Kennedy joined Trump, I was thrilled because I realized that America is going to become healthy again, because we're going to get our science back. Real good science. And I think he was a victim of bad science. And I call it scientism.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that. So I'm glad you made that point. But I want to go back to what you said, is that this is the way you want to go out. You know, we saw J.D. Vance, the vice president, visiting with him in private yesterday on Easter Sunday, and he passed just hours later. Now, the left, if you look on social media, they're slamming J.D. Vance for making that visit. And of course, they'll blame, you know, something J.D. Vance said, or that he just has, you know, bad vibes that he brought with him. But I see it as this. Here are two people who just recently, Reverend, had, you know, these differences on immigration, and they were very public with each other on their differences on immigration. And for the two to meet on Easter Sunday, shake hands, smile, and just honor their friendship. That's what it's all about. And to me, that's how I see it, is that you can put aside your differences, you can come together for the betterment of the world, and both are believers. And so Pope Francis could die peacefully then. That's how I see it. What are your views?
Yeah, I believe that it's really important for us to be open to the other side, to talk to the other side, because you don't make peace with your friends. You make peace with your enemies, which means you have to go out and you have to talk to the other party. We need to, as conservatives, we need to talk to liberals, and liberals need to talk to us, and we need to find common ground. And that's a real difficult thing in our society today because we are so divided. And I believe one of the reasons we're so divided is because the false science has been used to be able to take and twist the truth. And that's why in my book, God Always Wins, Divine Liberation from the Gods of the Woke, God Always Wins, is that we can come back to the real science, we can study the reality, and we can find out that there is such thing as good science that will give us guidance and direction to be able to come together under good science as opposed to having the science divide us.
I agree. And when it comes to the country, we are one nation under God. And we're not seeing God in our public places like we used to. We're not seeing God in our family homes like we used to generations ago. Why is it so important for societies to believe in God?
Well, as soon as we take our eyes off of Yahweh, the creator of heavens and earth, as soon as we lose fact that there is a God, one God, and that God has impact in our lives, what we do is we create false gods. And those false gods have always been around. In my book, I actually go through the Egyptian gods because it is the Egyptian gods that God faced in order to bring divine liberation to his people and take them out of slavery and into freedom. And those were the gods of Egypt. Well, the woke gods of today are the ones that we have created in our mind that are false, they're based upon false realities. And that happens when we take our eyes off of the true God, who we find in the Bible, explained to us and sharing with us the realities of life, how to live, how to find liberty, how to find a future. And so I take people through the plagues of Egypt and at the same time show how those plagues of Egypt conquered the gods of Egypt so that the people of God, the Israelites, could be taken out of Egypt and to the promised land. Now, I also go and I correlate that to woke gods that we have created over the last 60 years, because it was in 1962 the prayer was taken out, 63 the Bible taken out of our schools, and our science has just continued to disintegrate to where today science is saying you can be any gender you want. And it's false science, it's bad science. And as a result of that, we need to focus on the real science. We need to focus on the reality that God conquers these man-made images or idols. And he does that in order to bring us freedom and bring us to himself. And today, he doesn't send plagues. What he sends is his son, Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ comes with the I am statements to conquer and defeat all of the woke gods that we have created in our minds throughout the last few decades.
I agree, and it's hard to watch our society come to this point. Now, I believe Pope Francis was a pope of peace, and we want that not only in our country,
yes,
but all over the world. President Trump is a president of peace. When it comes to this division that we're seeing, how can our country find unity?
We have to come back to the truth. I think the unifying factor is going to be science that comes and brings us together. True science revealing the truth. For instance, there are only two sexes, male and female, and real science comes to that realization. Carbon. How is carbon literally affecting our environment? Is it having the negative impacts that has been used by your climate environmentalists over the last the last decade, or is it much more friendly than we realize? Everything in life consists of carbon. How can that literally destroy life as we know it in the world today? So I think there's a need for science to be able to bring us back together and realize that good science, true science, debunking the bad science is going to be a key to unifying liberal and conservative societies today.
Reverend, we are out of time. I'd love to have you back on to talk more about science and what we're seeing in our country and all over the world, because I believe, in my opinion, that science is kind of overtaking the biblical verses and the Ten Commandments and everything the Lord wanted for the human race. And we're seeing a lot of science, like you mentioned, that bad science overtaking.
It's bad science.
I'd love to have
scientism, bad science.
Yes, bad science. And so I'd love
good science reveals the reality of God.
Absolutely, absolutely. Want to have you back on here soon here on Lindell TV. But in the meantime, as we wrap up, let people know where they can purchase your book.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon, of course. It's entitled "God Always Wins: Divine Liberation for the Gods of the Woke," and it will. I think there's a lot of eye-opening things in there, and I think it'll be a good read. Available on Amazon, wherever else books are sold.
Reverend Robert Scholler, so good to see you. Thank you so much, and happy Easter Monday to you.
Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. As we just mentioned, Vice President J.D. Vance was the last visitor Prince had in public just yesterday on Easter Sunday. When Vice President Vance received the news, he put this statement out. "I just learned of the passing of Pope Francis. My heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him. I was happy to see him yesterday, though he was obviously very ill. But I'll always remember him for his for the below homily he gave in the very early days of COVID. It was really quite beautiful. May God rest his soul." Now, he mentioned the below homily with a link, and that homily he is referring to is saying that during COVID, we found ourselves afraid and lost. And like the disciples in the gospel, we were caught off guard, but we had to keep pushing forward together as they did in an unexpected storm, which was COVID-19. Again, you can check out the Reverend's new book, God Always Wins: Divine Liberation from the Gods of the Woke, on Amazon. And the White House Easter egg roll is being held today. The first family there celebrating the Easter season with 40,000 guests on the White House grounds. But it was still a somber day. In the back of everyone's minds, the passing of Pope Francis. Now we bring in White House correspondent Allison Steinberg live in Washington, D.C. Hi, Allison. What can you tell us?
Hi, Vanessa. Yes, it is a somber day here at the White House with the passing of Pope Francis, though it does sound like President Trump and the First Lady are making the best of it with this Easter egg roll. You can still hear the music going on behind me, so it is a very fun and festive event. But in honor of the passing of the Pope, President Trump did sign an executive order today ordering all flags here in the U.S. to be lowered to half-mast, following the death of Pope Francis. Let's take a listen to that clip.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, and a very happy Easter to everyone. It was a beautiful day yesterday, and it's a beautiful day today. We don't have to worry about sunburn, but looks like it's not going to be raining. It's going to be really something special. 42,000 people are expected all throughout the day, and it's an honor to have you. I just signed an executive order putting the flags of our country, all of them, all federal flags and state flags, at half-mast in honor of Pope Francis. So he was a good man, worked hard. He loved the world, and it's an honor to do that. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is some band. I've heard this band actually indirectly for 4 years and very directly now for 4.5. And I like the direct method even better. But the Marine Corps Band is very, very special. Thank you very much. What a great job. Thank you. Thank you. I also want to thank the National Park Service, the job they do in making everything so beautiful and spiffy. And I'm very difficult when it comes to that. I will tell you, very, very difficult. And I say they have done an incredible job. You just have to look around and see.
So very nice of President Trump to honor the Pope by lowering the flags everywhere in the U.S. today. On a bit of a lighter note, I think the egg roll has been a big success. Obviously, thousands of families show up in order to celebrate this annual tradition. It's been very fun. Like I said, you can hear a lot of the music, and it's just really a stark contrast for me is what really stands out here the most. I mean, just last year we had Biden, declaring it was Transgender Day of Visibility on Easter Monday, which really is quite a slap in the face to every Christian, not to mention the topless trannies that were parading around on the White House lawn here. So very nice change of pace. President Trump celebrating Easter the way it should and boldly proclaiming the name of Jesus out on the South Lawn. Let's take a listen to that.
Do you remember the bunny with Joe Biden? Remember? Do you remember when the bunny took Joe Biden out? He's not taking Trump out. Anyway, that was a beautiful moment when the bunny saved Joe Biden.
I don't think that was the right clip, but that was a funny moment today. President Trump reminding us all that the bunny had to escort Joe Biden into his next direction because he was obviously incapable of doing so, since he was, not doing too well cognitively. I think one of his handlers was dressed up as the bunny. I think we might have the clip of that. If we do, we can roll that now. It's hilarious, but also sad at the same time. I mean, this was the reality of the situation. Our president couldn't even figure out where to go. So that's what President Trump was mentioning when he kind of made fun of that situation that happened just 1 year ago here on the White House lawn.
Yeah, and I look back, Allison, at First Lady Melania and how she just kind of grins and keeps her composure. I would be laughing. President Trump, you never know what's going to come out of his mouth. He always has some sort of comeback for everything. And so it's expected, but you never know when or how he's going to say it. And so when he says that and she just looks at him and grins, kudos to her, because I would have to just belly laugh everything that he said. And so she always keeps her composure and she always handles herself with grace and just kind of gives him a grin and, goes about her way. And so I love watching her reaction as well. But the White House actually sent out a X post right after that and said, they showed the video we just showed our viewers, remembering last year at this time, and they quoted the video and said the White House is no longer a nursing home. So they put a little humor to it, picking at Joe Biden, but at the end of the day, he obviously has some health concerns that the prior administration covered up. And they were never truthful about his health, and they were never forthcoming of what battles he was facing. But it was clear to everyone that there were some medical issues going on there.
No doubt about that. And, it's actually funny because as there's so many changes being made here at the White House as far as media is concerned, who's allowed into the press briefing room, much of the legacy media, the very same people who covered up for Joe Biden's cognitive decline and, pushed the lie and the misinformation that he was fine and well, are now coming after people like myself and Kara Castronova of Lindell TV and other independent media outlets, saying, why aren't the new media holding Trump to a higher standard? Why are they all asking easy questions to the press secretary? Why don't they go harder on the president? It's like, do you guys not remember that a year ago you guys were covering up for Joe Biden and his cognitive decline? Like, this has been going on for a long time. Not to say that we are going easy. We, of course, want to, just get the truth out there. And if that means asking hard questions, I think they need to be asked. But for the liberal media to attack us saying that we're not, having any journalistic integrity when they're the ones who stood up for Biden and covered for his mental and cognitive health, it's pretty funny. You have to laugh at it.
Yes, there was no transparency with the last administration. Trump administration, a whole different ball game, offering transparency not even 24 hours after his health exam a couple of weeks ago at Walter Reed there in the D.C. area. The full report came out, and he great health. So they are very transparent. The Biden administration was not. So I think the American people can see the difference. But it's always good to go back and look at the different Easter events 1 year apart. And like you mentioned, you know, Joe Biden gave the day Easter Sunday, the day the Lord was resurrected, to Transgender Day. And then, you know, and then you have this day where President Trump is proclaiming the resurrection and our Savior, and, you know, talking about the Lord and all of his public appearances and his posts, and also Holy Week, when Holy Week started on Palm Sunday, putting out posts. He attended an Easter dinner. And so he's been celebrating the Easter Holy Week all week long. And so there's a big difference in the two administrations. And so glad to see the Easter egg roll. I'm kind of jealous, Allison, because I want to attend. That's on my bucket list, to attend 1 year. You know, I saw a video, and it was just a day of fun. The little kids were loving it. They colored. President Trump was autographing their coloring pages. Melania Trump, she read to the children. So what a great time for those 40,000 visitors.
Yes, indeed. It's been a wonderful day here. Very good spirits all around, very lighthearted, and just a really nice time for Americans to come and into the people's house, right, and celebrate Easter and this holy day here in a Christian nation where we are proud to proclaim the name of Jesus. So it really is beautiful to see, and quite refreshing, if I'm being totally honest. Very nice change of pace from Joe Biden allowing topless, you know, hood rats to run around on the White House lawn.
Yes, it was definitely a different scene last year. You know, and you mentioned the flags at half staff. That goes for all the buildings, public buildings across America, as well as military posts. And it also includes all U.S. embassies. So President Trump and his administration, going back to the serious topic as we reflect on Pope Francis today, the head of the Catholic Church, honoring the Pope, and we expect more to be coming out of the White House in the coming days. Again, J.D. Vance just meeting with the Pope yesterday. It was a great meeting. It was great to see. And so Pope Francis passed away at 88 this morning in the early morning hours. The Associated Press coming out just seconds ago saying that he had a stroke and that led to heart failure and put him in a coma. So that was the cause of his death in the early morning hours. Allison, thank you so much for your report.
Thank you so much, Vanessa.
And as we close out this half hour, we want to remind you that we will be covering more in depth on Pope Francis's passing coming up on the Mike Lindell Show in about 30 minutes. We'll also have Father Frank on the show to discuss what this means for the Catholic Church and where the Catholic Church goes from here for the future. So make sure you stick around for that, coming up in about 30 minutes on the Mike Lindell Show. And we leave you with a video of Pope Francis's last public appearance. He's had several, as you know. He was in the hospital for weeks with pneumonia, and we didn't think that he'd make it then, but he did pull through, and he was on the mend. And so this news today came as a shock to so many Catholics around the world, but he did make some last public appearances. He repeated his slogan of peace. The Vatican says the Pope's words echoed the countless appeals he had made over the years, urging world leaders to lay down arms and turn to dialogue. Here's that video, and I'll see you right back here in about 30 minutes.
La Chiesa ha bisogno del vostro coraggio. Il cardinale entra nella Chiesa di Roma. Fratelli, non entra in una corte. Costruire la pace è difficile, ma vivere senza pace è un tormento. giunta l'ora di costruire insieme l'Europa che ruota non intorno all'economia, ma intorno alla sacralità della persona umana.